out to you because I heard Draymond say this on his podcast, and I thought, he's absolutely right, and people don't talk about it. I try to say it, but he put it much better than I think I've ever said it before. We always hear the like, oh, people said this about LeBron, usually as arguments against LeBron, that getting to the finals is losing, and losing is almost worse than not getting there. And a lot of LeBron fans are like, no, like getting to the finals 10 times, he should get credit for that. And people usually frame it as like, yeah, but like then you're losing on the biggest stage all the time. And we had to look at you like that. We don't really penalize players for not getting to the finals. Like that's not a part of anyone's narrative, right? But think about it this way. He said a lot of times you don't talk about it, but you can get to the finals, but your team is nowhere near close to being a championship level team. You just happen to get to the finals that year. And if we go back on some of the finals lost matchups, we can look at that team. And when we really think about it, we can say they just lost to the eventual champion. But if you look at them, you can look at them and be like, well, you know what? That wasn't a championship built team. Now we suspend that thought when a team makes the finals because they could potentially win it, and you don't want to sound stupid, right? Yeah. You don't want to say that about a team, and then they end up winning it, and you sound dumb. But I think there are plenty of times we could point to where a team made the finals, and after the fact, it's very clear they were not a championship level team. The Miami Heat versus the Denver Nuggets.
Yep.
Yeah, they made the finals, but that team construction was never winning a chip. They made it twice. And they both series, they were never close.
Benefited from their conference.
I don't mean in terms of score. I don't mean in terms of the series record. Like they were never, that Miami Heat team in either version was never a championship built team.
Wait, you're talking about 2023,
and 2020 and 2020. I don't care that it went to 6 games in 2020. That team wasn't a chip team.
What's his point in saying that he's giving those teams credit?
Well, he's saying it was a conversation also about like adjustments after the fact, and he was talking about like how much losing sucks. He's like the other team goes on and wins a chip, and the losing team is kind of just like stuck in this space because you're like, okay, we were almost there, but he's like then the insecurity like breaks in, and you start asking, but were we actually almost there, or did we just happen to make the finals? And GMs have the hard job of being like, do we just run it back and make a tweak because we're close? Or were we actually not close at all? And do we need to make a fundamental change to how this team is built? And I was like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It may sound crazy to look at the Thunder, who had a great run and who've made the finals and who have some historical stats, and say there's a fundamental flaw in how they're built. But in the event they end up losing this finals, no one will talk about it. But in the front office, that is a question that is going to be asked.
But you know what? And it's a question you have to broach very carefully. I think
of course.
Agreed.
I think back to the Orlando Magic, right? When they lost to the Lakers. That team was a piece away from potentially coming back. And instead of just carefully adjusting and say, what do we need? They almost entirely blew up the roster and didn't come back. That is not. And sometimes when you say, "Oh, maybe
Dwight got hurt," though, I don't know if that's the fairest.
It's true, but they also made a lot of roster changes that summer that did not end up getting them anywhere close, and they could never fully.
But he was hurt that exact next year, unless I'm wrong.
In 2011,
I believe so. Because if we think about the 2011 East playoffs, I don't even think the Magic were like a thought.
Nah, they started to fall off right then and there.
I don't remember.
Wait, you mean the 2010? Because they made the finals.
No, they made 2010.
It was the 2010-2011 season.
Didn't they play the Celtics 2010?
He played 78 games that year. Let's see, 2011 playoffs.
Wait, no, didn't the Celtics play the Lakers in 2010?
No.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it'll be the 2010 playoffs.
2010-2011. So he would have been playing.
Oh, no. 09, 2010.
Yeah.
We beat them in the 08-09 season.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it was the 2010 finals or playoffs.
Hold on, I got the bracket right here.
Yeah, I don't see him getting hurt till 2012.
Yeah. When did he go to the Lakers?
2013.
I think he had some injury issues in 2011.
But I don't think it was enough for them to not make it.
So the Magic were the second seed in that playoff, so it wasn't a crazy fall off in terms of East standing.
right.
They were the second seed. They beat the Bobcats, obviously, and then they went to the semifinals. And I think, did they lose to the Hawks? No, they beat the Hawks. They got to the conference finals
And also the Heat.
Also,
to Boston. That's nothing.
Oh
think-
yes,
2011?
I remember that.
That's not a fall off.
Oh, in 2010.
Because
That's
an
not-
argument
yeah,
can be
that's not
made.
falling.
An argument can be made if KG wasn't hurt the year prior, they wouldn't have got to the finals.
I guess that's potentially true.
Like Boston still ran that conference.
Yeah.
Facts.
That's fair. But okay. Anyway, my point still stands in the fact of broaching it carefully because let's say you go get a Kevin Durant. How much does that cost you? Right? How much of that young core?
Picks. You don't
Chet
need picks anymore. What do
Do
you
they
have?
have any more
picks
picks
for?
to give? Oh, they probably
They
still
have
do.
30,000 picks.
Yeah,
to
they
give.
have the most picks.
Hey, bro.
The Suns don't want picks though.
Sure, but
So, to add to Andre's point, it's also like not only do you want to like not break up your potentially championship team, you're also then mortgaging like your future, and we see
Right.
how that plays out for a lot of teams too.
this
Like even
is
if your
the
team
future.
is not,
Though. Aren't you in the future? You're in the finals right now.
you kind of are. But if you think about like your point, you're saying like maybe we're not really a finals team, and that may be the case for them. We just happen to get there. But at least, at the very least, you know you have a young core of like potentially stars. Do you really want to?
So then here's my question to you, Alan. Then that means you're making a prediction about how long Shea is going to play at this level.
Yes.
Yes, but that's the risk you take. That's the risk you take. I mean, like having an NBA team is hard. Like there's a window for everything.
Yeah,
Not
these
old,
are
man.
tough
He's
questions.
not old. I think he's dragging this time.
He's
like-
not
No,
old. It's
no,
not an
he's not
It's not
obvious.
about
like-
him.
Exactly.
It's not even necessarily about him. It's just, and I've said this at the beginning of the year. Every team in the NBA has a very immediate window right now, and it's about 3 years because in about 3 years, Wemby's going to figure it out, and they're going to get him a running mate that's going to make
Yeah,
it.
this West is not getting sweet. West is
It's
only
not getting
tougher.
sweet at all. Wemby is coming up, and people need to be aware. Like it's a win now for a lot of teams.
Not to be a homer, but we're not going to act like this conference doesn't still belong to Luka Doncic.
Eh,
We're definitely going to act like
listen to me. Listen, I'm not
No.
even saying this from a Lakers standpoint, right? Because I would say this if he was still on the Mavs. If they had all the injuries and it was just Luka, I would say, okay, y'all caught a break that he didn't have a healthy team. I'm framing it from what happened. I'm saying y'all caught a break that there was a mid-season trade and they did their best to figure it out. Because this playoff run versus what Luka did last year, Paul, you said this before. Luka is already one of the greatest playoff performers of all time.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, right now in this playoffs, there are 5 different players, I think 6 different players that lead the 6 top statistical categories in the playoffs. Last year, Luka led in all of them. All of them.
That's 1 year.
No,
though.
Points, rebounds, assists, steals, all of them. Free throws, he led it. So when this guy's right and has got a good situation, it's his conference.
I don't know.
So
Yeah,
forget Wemby in a few years. The Thunder got to think about what if Luka comes back right and the Lakers put a solid team around him. What are we about to do?
So actually, to take a step back, the Thunder Big Three, they're not that far in age. They're not. I thought Chet was like
right.
20.
Yeah.
I thought Chet was like 20 or
It's not
something.
about
He's
age.
actually
No.
It's not about age. It's not about
That's
age. It's about
23, right?
readiness. You're talking about an MVP versus guys that look good. They look good.
But that goes. I'm talking about specifically for like as far as timeline goes. I think they're all pretty much on the same timeline now. But then the question becomes, are they good enough? So I think it goes back to that. But I think as far as timeline goes, I think they're all pretty much on the same timeline.
How can you
I
be on the
think-
same
I think-
timeline
I
if
think-
I'm winning MVPs and my co-stars aren't even all-stars?
Then that means they're not that
Jay
good.
Williams was
And
also-
it goes back to your question then. So you have to like change
Wait,
the team.
wait. Jay
Well,
wasn't
that's what I mean by
all-star.
timelines. I don't mean rate of development. I mean like where they are.
Yes, Gordon. You know.
Where Shea is I'm an MVP ready to win a chip right now. I'm that good. Unless we think Jalen Williams is going to go third team to a first team jump next year, or Chet is going to go from looks good to like an all-star next year, fringe all NBA, like fourth team. Unless we think those jumps are on their schedule, which I would not argue. I don't see a first team jump for Jalen Williams. I don't see Chet being an all-star next year. He didn't even really have a rookie year.
Team.
Technically, this is his rookie year.
I don't think he has to be first team. First and foremost, Chet still early on was still dealing with injuries. This is his first full year, really, and he's still figuring it out to make it to the finals and still be able to. But I don't think that makes him like the timeline that we're really worried about right now is Jalen Williams. And
sure, let's go there then. Let's talk about
Jalen Williams. He was an all-star. He was third team. Okay, and he's somebody that I think if they end up losing, it's a couple adjustments he has to make over the summer. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I would say right now, currently in June 7th, 2025, you are correct. Their timelines are a little bit further off, but if they lose and give them a summer, I think they can get in sync.
Where do you rank those two in terms of duos in the league right now?
In terms of duos?
Yeah. Everyone healthy. Forget the team. Forget the team. Ranking purely duos.
I mean,
where do you rank those two?
I got to think about it. I mean, Cat and Jalen above them.
Sure.
Luka and LeBron above them.
Of course.
I don't put Giannis and Dame above them.
Agreed. Healthy Tatum and Brown.
Healthy Tatum and Brown definitely above them.
So they're already at maybe fifth?
4 or 5, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Healthy Steph and Jimmy?
No.
They almost would have been in this finals if Steph didn't hurt. I have an argument to that.
That's honestly,
there's a strong argument for that. If Steph doesn't,
I don't know if I necessarily consider him a duo, but I see why you.
It is though. It is. I see
why. Honestly,
again, this West is not sweet, right? Like a lot of breaks got caught. For all the breaks we want to give the Celtics last year, we give the Thunder a lot of credit because they walked through a healthy Jokic, and they deserve that credit, sure. Right. But in the West, there's a lot more than Jokic that you typically would have to get through. You typically got to get through LeBron. Right. You typically got to get through Jokic. You typically got to get through Steph.
Right.
And they didn't have to do that. All they had to get through was Jokic and an Ant who's not ready yet also.
Right.
That might not be the case next year. Is Jalen Williams ready to be the second best player versus the second best player being a LeBron?
Here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, right? The uncomfortable thing that we don't want to admit because we're on a podcast, I think, is that we just got to wait and see.
No, of course, but that's all we're doing is projecting and theorizing, obviously.
Because the answer could be yes by game 2.
He could prove it. There's still plenty of room. You're right. He could prove it.
Yeah.
But in terms of reaction to game 1, I think it's right for us to be in this mindset of like, now these are questions. That's part of how bright the lights are. After every game in the finals, your whole team now we started to analyze everything about it.
Nitpicking
everything about it.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, sorry, Alan, you go and I'll go after.
I was gonna say if the Thunder lose, it's just gonna get even worse for them. It's gonna be analyzed even greater. And I think
like
Draymond
said, I don't know
Sam Presti would do it. Yeah. I don't know if Sam Presti would do it, but a lot of GMs would then fall into that trap of you gotta shake things up. But
the Celtics in 22. What were we saying?
We also gotta remember this is a championship window. We gotta remember that too. It's not just
not a year, it's a window.
Year. And I know what you're saying about the teams coming back, but like other teams getting like that's not gonna be as sweet, but they could also get better. You know what I mean? So I just want the GMs to like think about that sometimes too. God, it's damn near a tragedy to me when teams shorten up like their championship window. If you trade for Kevin Durant after making the finals and you're giving up these young guys, like I know what you're saying about, we're not going to see him do it. I agree with you. He's not going to jump from third team to first team like next year. But in 2-3 years, when they're all still in their prime, that could be a jump. And you're going to mess that up. if you trade him.
And so, but imagine if you're a GM. I'm not saying Shea's gonna go in and say make changes, but let's say they lose and you have your exit conference. You're gonna sit down and look Shea in the face and be like, "Hey, listen, like, I know we made the finals, but like, we're probably gonna be good enough to get it done in like 2 to 3 years."
I think they're good enough to go back next year. I don't
I
think
know, but I'm just saying, if what Alan just said, I'm saying, imagine telling Shea that after this season, winning an MVP. I was just in my finals, telling him we'll be ready in 2 to 3 years.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I don't think that's the conversation, though.
The conversation is we're not going to be ready in 2 or 3 years. It's like we're ready now. We just lost. There's things we got to fix on. There's little things we got to fix on. We're going to be ready now, but we're also going to be ready for next year, year after that.
That sounds like the ant conversation of I'm going to get to do this many more times.
Well, you don't sit and do nothing. You improve your team in different ways, but there's little things you improve on. You don't make a major change. You don't sit and do nothing. If I'm Sam Presti, I'm not going to be like, we made the finals this year. Let's run it completely back. No changes at all. You make the little changes, whatever they are.
Well, to your point,
can I add in something?
But to your point, a great example of that, just because I don't want to be like I'm not on a side. I just want to keep stoking the conversation. A credit to y'all's point would be the Celtics, because in 22 that was the exact conversation. Yes. Oh, this Tatum Brown duo is not going to get it done. One of them is not ready. People debated which one of them wasn't ready. Yada yada yada. They keep it together and they just go get Drew Holiday.
Right.
And you win a chip that year.
And play against injured teams every round.
Here's the difference. Remember when we
but that's the luck you need. I mean, like I said, that's the luck you need. There was luck in the Thunder making this year.
100%. But so that was
they didn't have to face Luka or Steph. Like,
so initially, right? And I like that you brought up the Drew Holiday point, because when I said Kevin Durant, it wasn't necessarily to say that there are no changes to make, even though I don't actually believe there are a lot of changes